Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TDC.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
So this is one of the reasons I love Menti, because you can actually...
It's your time. Show us that video.
Memory is really important.
Teaching is the best profession because we are resilient.
Hopefully you can see how you can change this.
Good afternoon, and welcome to all our teachers attending the 2021 TDC Teaching Development Conference organized by SBS Libreria Internacional. In the second year of lockdown, we are here again thanks to the digital tools that have become part of our day-to-day. And it is thanks to this technology that we can meet with many colleagues connected from different parts of Peru, such as Arequipa, Cusco, Trujillo, Piura, Chiclayo, Tacna, Lima, among others, and also from different countries such as Brazil, Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru, and I've also heard Egypt is connected. So on behalf of SBS Libreria Internacional, we would like to thank you for attending this event in which we will go through what these almost 2 years of 100% virtual education have meant. And we will analyze how everything learned can be capitalized on for the return to face-to-face classes. At SBS, we have this great opportunity to be in contact with the best publishers in the world. And this makes it possible for us to bring together in a single event some of the best international specialists representing their publishers and bringing with them knowledge that has been developed in different parts of the world and to apply successfully to our English teaching here in our schools, cities, and countries. This year, 2021, is a particularly special year for SBS, Librería Internacional, as we celebrate 25 years in the Peruvian market, 25 years of effort to bring to all the regions of Peru the best content for learning languages, science, and general interest. 25 years working with values and with the objective of contributing to education hand in hand with all of you. Now, without further ado, I'd like you to invite you to watch the following video
En
with me.
SBS
Let's go,
Internacional,
team.
estamos comprometidos con la educación y la difusión de la cultura a través de materiales físicos y digitales. Somos una de las cadenas más grandes de Sudamérica, orientada a producir y distribuir libros de idiomas, académicos y de interés general. En SBS, Librería Internacional, estamos comprometidos con la educación y la difusión de la cultura a través de materiales físicos y digitales. Somos una de las cadenas más grandes de Sudamérica, orientada a producir y distribuir libros de idiomas, académicos y de interés general, así como bibliografía clásica e imprescindible. Hemos consolidado nuestra presencia en Perú con librerías ubicadas estratégicamente en los departamentos de Lima, Cusco, Arequipa, Trujillo, Piura, Chiclayo, Iquitos y Huancayo. Además de una librería online, donde presentamos una gran variedad de títulos que podrás recibir desde la comodidad de tu hogar, gracias a nuestro servicio de delivery a nivel nacional. SBS, Librería Internacional. 25 años comprometidos con la calidad educativa y la difusión de la cultura en el Perú. Soluciones para quien enseña y para quien aprende.
Thank you very much, team. Now, I'm going to talk about how certificates of attendance to this event will be issued. All registered participants of the event will receive a link at the end of the TDC so that they can register their information for the certificate. The certificate will be awarded to participants who attend 70% of TDC conferences, that is to say, at least 5 conferences. If you have not registered yet, please do it now. Very good. Now, to start, I want to thank the publisher Scholastic for participating in this event. Scholastic has been the largest publisher of children's and young people's literature in the world for the past 100 years. It is also a strategic ally of educational institutions, schools, ministries of education, and non-profit organizations in more than 150 countries around the world, serving educational needs from reading comprehension, mathematics, and teaching English through printed and digital resources, among other areas. In Latin America, Scholastic has a team of educational and sales consultants and a support team to accompany the process in the different countries of our regions. To get to know a bit more about Scholastic, let's watch this video. Let's go, team.
What will this day bring? What stories will I reach for? What magic will I touch? Today, it's the pages turning in my teacher's hands. Or the weight of a bedtime story. A story so sweet, I dream of words that fly. A story so cool that I get lost and come back. A goddess, a doctor, a dragon, a pilot. Maybe even all four. The pages pull me into their worlds. The stories invite me like open arms. Like love. I am standing on all the stories I've ever read. I am growing into someone new.
Thank you very much, team. Next, we are going to present our first speaker of the afternoon, the renowned consultant Oscar Moreno, with the topic Flipped Classroom as Didactic Strategy in B-Learning. Oscar Moreno holds a master's in mathematics education and a specialization in applied ICT in education from Universidad Pedagógica Nacional. He's working on his second master's in educatronics and holds a degree in mathematics from Sergio Arboleda University in Colombia. He was a teacher and the head of the math department at the Abraham Lincoln School in Colombia, where he oversaw the prime mathematics program implementation. He has been the author of research articles and a speaker at different events about pedagogical content knowledge, PCK, B-Learning Flipped Classrooms, statistics teaching, Singapore Maths, and a phone apps maker. He was a calculus statistics professor at Sergio Arboleda University. Currently, he is the maths consultant at Scholastic, supporting prime mathematics and Matemática al Máximo, teachers from Latin America, the Caribbean, Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Welcome to TDC, Oscar.
Thank you, dear Peter. All right, so good afternoon, dear educators, and welcome to this amazing event. And basically, we'll be talking about a really amazing topic, which is flipped classroom as a didactic strategy for B-learning. But before to start the presentation, I want to ask you a big favor. Please download this app Nearpod in your device, could be in your cell phone or your tablet, or you can go directly to the Nearpod website in your laptop, because we will use it in an interesting activity that I have for today. So basically, at the end of this session, participants will be able to answer the following questions. First, what is B-learning? Second, what are the key points of flipped classroom? What are those key points that we should take into account when we want to implement flipped classroom in English classes or any class? What resources can I use to implement flipped classroom in my classes? But firstly, I want to talk about this really important topic, learning in the era of COVID-19. So basically, we live in uncertain times. Public health is at forefront of our minds, and our schools have been disrupted in ways we have never seen. Although no one can predict how education might look in the coming months, it is in the best interest of our students to strategize how we might best meet their needs in the upcoming months. Despite of this article from the NCTM, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics from the USA, is about math learning, we could go further in education in general. So the three important areas that we should take into account right now, especially in remote teaching or the hybrid instruction, is structures in the first hand or the first stage, then teaching practices, and then advocacy. But before to start with these three different areas, we should answer some really important questions, or we need to consider some really important questions, because we need to reflect on the teaching practices that we are conducting right now in our classes. First, who should be part of which conversations and decisions? Basically, because we have to involve different people in these conversations, which are really important, because the main objective is to maintain, is to achieve learning objectives with the students. In the second hand, we have what support, or the second question is, what support is necessary for educators to thoughtfully engage learners in meaningful learning when students, teachers, and leaders move forward with learning? Basically, because teachers and students, educators in general, need support for their classes. And finally, we should answer this question, or we need to reflect on this last question. What questions do we need to ask before taking next steps? So basically, according to this amazing research article, Moving Forward Mathematics Learning in the Era of COVID-19, the first area, structures supporting teaching and learning, we need to try to answer this really important question. What are productive structures to organize students for instruction? So basically, we need to take into account these three key points in this first area, according to this research article. So perhaps it is the first time that we face students in class and we didn't know how to deliver our lessons, how to conduct our online classes, for example. The new organization. In the past, we insist to say, sit down, students. We will start the class. Please silence and be quiet. Now we should push students to participate in class. Most of times it looks funny. Hey, Oscar, are you there? What do you think? Can you listen to me? And in our mind, in our brain, we are thinking, please talk or I will be died. So we should determine the essential prior knowledge on learning objectives we have to establish a student's profile in each grade. We need to define important learning outcomes of the process and standards considered in the official documents from the Ministry of Education, for example. This resource will be very important because we will be able to identify the weaknesses and strengths from our students. So basically, in the second area, teaching practices, we should consider these three really important aspects. First, we need to do the formative assessment process, or the formative assessment approach, because we need to provide proper feedback right now. Students are learning at home. They don't have the teacher next to them. We need to provide feedback, which is really important for them because they need to consider this feedback in order to improve in their knowledge. Secondly, we have the most effective teaching practices in face-to-face, remote, and hybrid instruction. Maybe because some students are learning at home, some students are learning in the school. So we need to think about the perfect or the suitable strategy to teach our classes, to deliver our lessons with the students at home and students in the school. And the third key point, which is really important and actually think is the most important for me, is powerful questions. powerful questions is a really important pedagogical tool in our classes, because through powerful questions, you can help students to understand much better the different topics that you are teaching in your class. Instead that you give explanations or instructions in your class, you can direct your class to powerful questions in order to develop understanding from students. In this second area, we also consider these key points or these key questions. What are the essential learnings for the grade level for the upcoming school year? Basically, we haven't covered covered all the topics the last year in 2020. Maybe because where the classes change a lot. For example, the time in the classes. So we had about 1 hour or 1 hour and a half in our classes. But in the last year, we had just 40 or 50 minutes in our online classes. So basically, we need to consider those topics or the understanding which was missing the last year, because we need to teach it in this year, 2021. Also, we should consider this question: how have the essential learning been communicated to all stakeholders? Remember that we should include all people in this process. We need to include families. We need to include special education teachers, for example, according to students' needs. It's really important to think about the new social relationships in the new classroom. How is the interaction among students? How is the interaction between students and teacher? Definitely, when you were in your class, you usually asked your questions. You usually had interaction with the students. But right now, or the last year, or this year, you need to open the cameras from students. You need to open their mics to listen their answers, to listen their participation in your classes. So it's really important to reflect on this point. What is the new relationship between teachers and students? What is the new relationship between or among students in your class? So according to the NCTM, these are the most effective teaching practices. Firstly, we have to think about established goals to focus learning. Remember, when the students are directed to a specific learning objective, you will have engaged students in your class. Because you need to engage students in your class, you need to be clear with the different learning objectives, because they will know how or what will they learn in your classes. In the second point, we have implement tasks that promote reasoning and problem solving. So remember that problem solving is the most important category of the skills according to the World Economic Forum. This is not a job from math teachers only. In all areas, every teacher needs to develop this really important category with the students in the class. The English teachers, science teachers, they need to develop these problem-solving skills in class with the students. In the third point, use and connect representations. We need to work, or we need to develop collaboration. We need to work on different topics using different areas. For example, if you talk to the math teacher or the science teacher, you can plan a class for the students in which they can get different knowledge or different understanding, topics in common from science, from math class, from English class, for example. Then facilitate meaningful discourse. Basically, this is really important because most of times we think that there's only one discourse in the class, which is through different questions in the class, and questions are really important in the different classes. but also we need to consider the other discourses that we can get in our classes. For example, the physical discourse, how students can manipulate things, can manipulate physical objects to discuss about a topic, to discuss about the class. Then pause purposeful questions. And this point is really connected to powerful questions, because most of times we're asking only questions from level 1 according to from the Bloom's taxonomy, for example, or the NCTM framework. So we're asking a lot of questions from level 1, but the students face questions level 2, level 3, or level 4 in the different assessments. Then we have built procedural fluency from conceptual understanding. This is one important point, or one of the most important teaching practices, because the students need to see the knowledge connected to the real life. They need to apply the knowledge, the understanding on familiar and real context. Then support productive struggle in learning, and finally elicit and use evidence of student thinking. These two last points are really important, because you will have information based on your students. You can describe your students in simple words, but also you have identified their weaknesses, their strengths. You know their weaknesses, and according to these weaknesses, you can plan new classes for them, how you can help them to understand the different topics in your class. So the third area considered by the NCTM is humanizing the development and implementation of education policies and practices. So we need to try answering this question: what do we need to consider regarding policy and budgetary decision making? So basically, in this part, we should focus on formative assessment in order to humanize education policies and practices. We need to think about there are not limits in the learning process. Despite of their learning at home, for example, there are not limits in the learning processes or the learning process. So we should provide different resources for them to learn mathematics, to learn science, to learn a new language, in this case, for example, with the English teachers in this event. Promotion of teaching and learning process. This is really important, because students need to understand the different topics that they are learning in class. And also we should consider these 4 points: create a culture where professional learning and increasing teacher capacity are priorities. This is a really important point. This is the reason that you are here in this event, because we need to do professional development. We need to learn the new or the last teaching practices, because we need to align our teaching practices to the new reality of the students, the new reality of education in the world. Prioritize time and value teacher collaboration, because we need to prioritize the important topics or the standards which students need to develop in each grade. We need to make decisions right now according to these specific topics which students need to learn in the class. Integrate the use of tools and technology. So this point is really clear, and we learn different tools. We learn about different tools. We learn about technology the last year. We are learning right now different apps, different digital resources that we can use or we should use in our classes to continue delivering our lessons. And finally, increase transparency. This is really important, because when students are learning at home, possibly they think they are learning all the topics that you are teaching. However, when they need to show you if they have learned an any specific topic and they take a test, for example, maybe they will get a low score. But the score is not important. The most important thing is what learning or what topics students are learning. Okay, so according to this context or the new vision or the new concept of education, we need to think about be-learning approach or hybrid instruction, like one of the options that we can implement in our classes. So before to give a specific definition about be-learning approach or hybrid instruction, I want to ask you this question to you. Please share your answer through the chat box. What is be-learning for you? What is a hybrid instruction for you? Please share with me your comments, your answers through the chat box. I want to read some of them because I'm really sure that you have a whole definition of this really important concept right now, according to your experience the last year and this one. What is be-learning approach or hybrid instruction? All right, so you are putting your comments in the chat box. All right, so let's see some definitions about be-learning, and let's see how your definition is aligned to a formal definition from some research articles. So according to this author, blended learning systems combine face-to-face. There's a missing word because I want to do an activity with you right now. You will type in the chat box the word that you think completes this perfectly, completes this definition perfectly. Blended learning systems combine face-to-face, there's the missing word, with computer-mediated instruction. So what would the word be in here in this definition? What do you think? So let's take 1 minute to think about. I know this activity could be a little bit difficult, but according to your experience, what word would you write there? What word would you put in this definition to complete it? Okay, let's see. So the correct word is instruction. Blended learning systems combine face-to-face instruction with computer-mediated instruction. So in the other hand, we have this definition from an other author, and he said, or they said, blended learning is the thoughtful missing word of classroom face-to-face learning experiences with the second missing word, learning experiences. So what are those two words that you would use to complete this definition perfectly? Let's take 20 seconds to think about these words. Blended learning is the thoughtful first missing word of classroom face-to-face learning experiences with another missing word there, and learning experiences. Okay, so let's see the answers. Is thoughtful integration of classroom face-to-face learning experiences with online learning experiences. So this is one of the most amazing things about blended learning. You can combine both kinds of instructions, face-to-face learning experiences or face-to-face instructions, and also online learning experiences. According to these two definitions, there are 3 key points in these definitions that we should consider and we need to think about them. First, thoughtful integration. Second, face-to-face learning experiences. And third, online learning experiences. So if we are considering face-to-face and online learning experiences, it's it is the proper didactic strategy to use in hybrid instruction or blended learning, especially if you will have students at home, learning at home, and students learning in the classroom. So basically, we need to talk about right now flipped classroom. So flipped classroom, what is flipped classroom? Flipped classroom is a didactic strategy considered in the build learning approach or the hybrid instruction. So according to their creators, its creators, Jonathan Berman and Aaron Sams, two science teachers who introduced this really nice strategy, making tutorials, making videos for their students. So they saw that some students didn't attend to their classes, so they record and upload videos on YouTube, and then the instruction was, all right, students, you need to watch the videos on YouTube, and then you can take the test too, or you can work on the workshop or the guide that we are working in class, because you have prepared the class watching these videos on YouTube. So basically, this was the beginning of this amazing didactic strategy. Because I want to call your attention on this cartoon. This is in Spanish because I didn't find another one in English better than this one, because I want to reflect on students' faces. Basically, because teachers, especially young teachers, we are, or every teacher is a risk taker. So we can propose different activities. We can plan different classes for the students. But most of times the students are worried about these changes because maybe they have seen math class, for example, or English class already traditionally. So if you focus on this girl, she's sad. She's worried because her teacher is doing a different thing in the classroom. But two of them, these students that we have in the extremes, they are really excited. They are happy because they are seeing their teacher doing a different thing in the classroom. So that's the purpose of flipped classroom. We need to change our teaching practices because we need to align our teaching practices more and more to students' needs. So according to this reflection, flipped classroom is not an online video. It is not a substitute teacher. It is not a virtual course. It is not a student's work without any instruction. It is not an individual work. Sometimes we can think that flipped classroom is an online video, that I can record a video and then I can upload this video to YouTube, for example, or the platform in the school. But the flipped classroom or flipped classroom is not a video only. Actually, flipped classroom is an interaction increase between teacher and students. It is a space to involve students in their own learning. It is a space in which teacher is a guide and a mentor. So we need to consider these important things or this description about flipped classroom, because basically we are changing our lessons, we are changing our teaching practices if we consider it strategies like this, like flipped classroom. So let's see an example of flipped classroom. As you know, as Peter said at the beginning of this presentation, I'm a math teacher and I have implemented flipped classroom in my classes. So basically, before to implement flipped classroom, we need to take into account some pedagogical issues, some pedagogical aspects before to introduce a class using flipped classroom. Because we should consider the instructional design. What's the perfect virtual learning object which will be working like a teacher virtually, because students will work on this virtual learning object to learn the different concepts that you are teaching in your class. So the first aspect that we have to consider is the instructional design. What are those directions? What are those instructions that you will provide, that you will give in your class according to the virtual learning object, which students will take, which students will follow in order to achieve the different learning objectives. In the second hand, we have the didactic design. Then the activities that you will propose for students. Didactic design and activities, they are related because when you are proposing activities in your class, you need to think about how you can convert your knowledge to teaching practices. Because maybe you are a really amazing English teacher and you know a lot of vocabulary in English. However, you don't know how to teach this vocabulary. You don't know how to teach your knowledge to the students. So every time that you plan an activity, every time that you think about an activity that you will propose in your class, you need to think about how you can change, how you can convert your knowledge to students. And students will learn this knowledge, your knowledge, the things that you are teaching in your class. Then we should consider a script and a metaphor. This script and metaphor is optional. Why? Because most of times when the students are working on a virtual learning object, they need motivation. So if you present or if you provide the virtual learning object with the activities only, maybe the students won't engage. So you need to engage students in your class, in your new virtual class, so you can describe a metaphor in your virtual learning object like, I don't know, look for a treasure, for example, or their favorite cartoons, for example, or their favorite movie. So you can use this metaphor in the virtual learning object to engage, to motivate students. And finally, we need to think about the ICT and the digital resources and electronic devices which you will need in your classes. So according to the instructional design, for example, in this case, I consider it multiplication teaching. So you need to describe using, for example, a flow chart, considering the beginning, the end of this instructional design, the different decisions which students will make meanwhile they are navigating the virtual learning object. So you need to consider assessment, you need to consider to explore, recall prior knowledge, for example, or learning objectives which students will achieve with this class using a virtual learning object. So after the instructional design, we should think about learning objectives. This is in Spanish because when I use this virtual learning object, I designed this virtual learning object in Spanish because this wasn't a bilingual school where I implemented this virtual learning object. However, the most important thing in here is define very well the learning objectives which students will learn in your class. We need to consider different categories in these objectives because students are working in their own pace. They are working according to their learning styles. So we need to consider different categories to help students achieving the learning objectives in the class. So then we need to make some decisions because the topics are really big, they are really large. For example, in this case, multiplication is a really large topic in math classes. So I need to focus on a specific knowledge, on a specific subtopic of multiplication. For example, in this case, students work on multiplication like a quaternary operation. So I need to make these decisions. I have made this decision, and then I can think about the virtual learning objects, the digital resources that I will use for my class. So then I need to define the teacher's role and the student's role. So what is the student role in this virtual learning object, in this new class, considering face-to-face learning experiences and online learning experiences? What is the teacher's role? Because we should, for example, introduce the topic, we should motivate, we should engage students in the topic or the class. We need to give the different examples, we need to give the different strategies to learn. And the student's role is more important than teacher's role, because they are learning, because they need to recall prior knowledge. They need to work on the specific examples to show mastery according to the different topics that you are teaching in your class. And finally, we need to make a prototype of this virtual learning object. So I want to share with you this amazing resource, Balsamic. This is a really nice website because you can make your prototype using different interactive things in this resource, in which you can make your virtual learning object. And according to this prototype, this app or this website will help you to understand the best digital resources that you will need to create or to make your virtual learning object. So what are the outcomes of this whole process when you are considering flipped classroom in your class? In this example, particularly, we got an intro video, which was uploaded to YouTube, in which we explain the learning objectives for the students. We create an interactive piece where the students navigate, they work on different examples about multiplication, like a quaternary operation. They solve problems using the 4 Polya's principles, for example. They were working on a specific multiplication problems using a really nice metaphor, the Lincoln's treasure. It was at Abraham Lincoln School from Bogota, Colombia. So they discovered that they discovered the Lincoln's treasure. Meanwhile, they learn about multiplication like a quaternary operation. And finally, we created an X learning. This is another interactive piece in which students could solve different problems using digital resources. So now, before to continue, I want to ask this really important question. I want to reflect on this important question. Who is missing this school noise? Raise your hand, please. For example, I'm raising my hand because I really miss this school noise. Their voices, their questions, saying, "Teacher, I don't understand. Teacher, can you explain me again, please?" So we really miss this school noise. I'm really sure if you are educators, you are missing to this school noise. So now I want to show you, or I want to share with you, some virtual learning objects that I have made for this event. So when you want to create a virtual learning object, you don't need to be you don't need to go deeper in the different steps that I show you or that I share with you today, because you can create a virtual learning object to help students to understand the different topics. And then when you are in your class, you can ask questions related to this specific topic. They can reinforce their knowledge about multiplication in this case, for example. So please go to Nearpod and enter a code. So basically, when you go to Nearpod, let me show you. When you go to Nearpod, Nearpod will ask you a code. So in here, in the students part, the student section says join a lesson and enter code. So in here, you will enter this code. according to the class that you want to explore. For example, if you select timetables, how to teach timetables to first graders and second graders, you will type this code EPG2W, all right? Or if you want to learn how to teach order of operations or PEMDAS to third and fourth graders, please type this code SUNM9, all right? Or if you want to learn how to introduce division with a different method in third and fourth grade, so you need to type the code MXJLR. And finally, if you want to choose this class, lattice method for multiplication, if you want to learn how to introduce a different way to multiply numbers in second and third grade. So when you go to Nearput, you need to type any of these codes. I will show you how. For example, imagine that I have selected timetables. So I will copy this code, and then I will go to Nearput. I will enter the code here, and then I will click on this blue arrow. So you will go to the virtual learning object about timetables in this case. So you can propose to students in your class different activities that they want to select in your class. For example, you can say, guys, I have these topics for today, right? If you are teaching a specific topic in the English class, and then students will go to any of these topics and they will be reinforcing the different topics of your English class, or they will be working on examples of the different topics in your English class. So firstly, we need to enter our name. For example, Oscar in this case. Then optional nickname, that's not necessary to enter anything here. And then you need to click on join this lesson or join lesson. So the students can work on their own pace, in this case, multiplication or timetables. So you can create different contents using Nearpod. You can visit different parts of the world, right? Or you can design, for example, activities or exercises with different types of questions or different kinds of exercises in your class. For example, in here, I have selected the first activity. They need to look at a short strategy for timetables, considering from the Singapore's math. Then students will watch a video that I have created, and they will learn how to multiply or how to get timetables using their hands. After that, I have created another activity in which students will remember the timetables using this short strategy. Then they will play a game. So you can include games in this amazing resource, in this amazing digital resource. So the students will practice on timetables using this game. After that, students will review again timetables using the same picture, because this picture is really important according to Singapore's math teaching. Then they will watch another video and they will learn how to multiply 2 digits and 3 digits using hands. Again, we have the picture again about timetables, because they need to review again about this topic. Another game in which they can practice about timetables. So of course, I'm talking about math, but you can change this by any topic. For example, I don't know, simple past, right? Or comparatives and superlatives, for example, if it's the topic that you're teaching in your class. And then you have finished, congratulations. Then the students have finished this part in which the virtual learning object in which they have reinforced on this specific topic timetables, and then they can continue in the other virtual learning objects. For example, this student has finished about timetables. Now, this student can continue working on pandas or order of operations. All right. So, meanwhile, you are in the class, students are working individually or in groups in these virtual learning objects. They are reinforcing the different topics. So you are not talking all the time in your class because they are working in the different activities that you have designed for them. And after that, in the next class, for example, you can discuss with them. All right, Oscar, all right, Peter, Ruben, Maria, tell me, what did you think about the new strategy to multiply numbers? Can you show us an example about lattice method or about chunking method for division? All right, or what did you see in the second virtual learning object about order of operations? Can you share with us an example specifically? So you will increase the interaction between teacher and students and among students. And basically that was the most important thing that I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. Consider it in the 3 areas about learning in the era of COVID-19. Okay? So some resources for flipped classroom. Finally, I want to share with you some resources, some digital resources, completely free that you can use for your classes. The most interesting part of these resources is that I have classified these digital resources according to the Bloom's taxonomy. So remember that we have different levels of thinking in the Bloom's taxonomy. So first level is understand and remember. So we can consider these digital resources. Maybe you can take a screenshot right now because you won't find this on the internet, I'm really sure. And this is really useful. The second level, which is apply, we can use these amazing digital resources. I have used all of them with my children. And they are really, really amazing. They are incredible. The third level, which is analyze. Okay. So analyze news, for example, from Google Trends, from WordPress, from Google Docs. If you have shared any document on Google Drive, for example, students can discuss about the same topic. You say, all right, guys, I will send you a link. You need to explore the content there, and then we will discuss in our class about this topic. The fourth level, which is assess, we can use these amazing resources. One of the, or my favorite is hot potatoes, for example, because you can create scorn packages like X Learning. So in these scorn packages, they are really, really amazing because you can include different interactive activities for the students. In the next and the last level, create, we have these resources too. So if you want to make a presentation or students will make a presentation, they can use Prezi, Powtoon, Pictochart, Genially, Canva, PowerPoint. Or if you want to share the content from the students and your content in the same place, you can use these virtual or these interactive whiteboards, Morally, Gloucester, Linoit, and Padlet. Or if the students need to listen or create videos or audios, for example, you can use these resources. All right, so you have more than 20 digital resources right now, completely aligned to the different thinking levels considered in the Bloom's taxonomy. So you have digital resources to create your own flipped classroom in which students can work on the different resources that you are proposing in your class at home or in the classroom. Okay, so all right, so before to finish, I want to share, or I have included these resources too, Nearpod, which was the digital resource that we used today. Per Deck, which is really similar to Nearpod, but this works with a Google account, and X Learning, which I use to create the interactive piece that I share with you today. Okay, so dear educators, it's time for questions. What questions do you have? Any question, dear teachers? Okay, for this time for technology out of the school is great, but as we return to classroom, we will have to continue using some of these tools in order to make children motivated at any place or time. Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. These digital resources are really important. It doesn't matter if you are planning or you will be continuing with face-to-face sessions or online sessions. Flipped classroom, it is like a method? No, it isn't. Actually, this is a didactic strategy because when you consider flipped classroom like a method, you need a step by step or a stage by stage. But you can create or you can make a class using flipped classroom or implementing flipped classroom without any step by step. The only things that you need is plan very well the class for students who are learning at home and the class for the students who are learning in the classroom. There are many methods to learn about this topic. Yeah, agree, of course. Thank you for sharing that comment. Any other question?
No, no more questions. So thank you very much, Oscar Moreno from Scholastic. Thanks, that was really great, really interesting. Now, continuing with the agenda, we would now like to welcome Pearson, one of the world's leading learning companies. And to find out a bit more about our friends at Pearson and what they do, let's watch this video together. Let's go, team.
The real goal of learning isn't knowledge, it's change. When we learn, we create new pathways, new circumstances, new futures for ourselves and for others. Pearson is the world's leading learning company, but what we really make, the thing we are most proud of, is change. For over 50 years, we have been transforming lives through education, helping tens of millions of people all over the world reach their full potential. And yet we are lifelong learners ourselves, forever evolving to meet the moment. With our history to ground us and our creativity to inspire us, we're reinventing everything we do, from paper to pixels, from physical to virtual. We're making learning more personal, more equitable, more powerful. There has never been a better time to learn, and we are. We are the change we believe in. We are learning.
Thank you very much, team. Now, we are extremely fortunate to have two speakers who will close this first block of the TDC, the renowned international consultants Carmen Aguilar and Luis Cerron, with the topic Enhancing Your Students' Wellbeing and Imagination Through Reading Stories. Carmen Aguilar is a fully professional, qualified and experienced ESL, EFL, ESP, business teacher, trainer, and coordinator. She holds a BA in Teaching English as a Foreign Language from the University of Guadalajara. She has more than 20 years of teaching experience. She has taught at some prestigious universities such as the Tecnológico de Monterrey, Central Missouri State University, and the Mexican Air Force. She is certified as a PET, KET, and Advanced Speaking Evaluator by Cambridge English Language Assessment. She is interested in innovation, implementation, and research of TICs. She has given some conferences about the use of TICs, Schoolology, and Twitter for educational purposes. She has completed a master's degree in TEFL and is currently working on her MA thesis about the use of Twitter in ELT. She is currently working as an educational coach for Pearson Education Mexico. Welcome to TDC, Carmen.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to see you all. And I am here from Guadalajara, the city of tequila and mariachi. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, thank you. And our second speaker at this conference, Luis Cerron. Luis Cerron is 40 years old from Queens, New York. He has studied applied linguistics with a major in language teaching at Pontifical Catholic University in Quito. He has a CELTA International Quality Certification for teaching English to adults. He is an English teacher with more than 18 years of experience teaching English and as a teacher hirer, trainer, and coach at Wall Street English. He has also given workshops for teachers at different universities in Ecuador, Chile, Bolivia, Peru, and Paraguay for different institutions, as well as courses for standardized exams such as the Pearson Test of English Suite, TOEFL IBT, and Cambridge First. Nowadays, he works with Pearson Ecuador. Some of his functions are teacher evaluator, educational coach, and workshop organizer. Welcome to TDC, Carmen and Luis.
Luis, we can hear you.
Well, that was the tonic of all the pandemic. We can't hear you. Your microphone is off. Thank you very much. Well, I'm very happy to be here today, and we're very honored to be of your service in this occasion. So we are ready for our presentation. We're going to be talking about enhancing your students' well-being and imagination. So here with Carmen, we are going to be telling you all about it, and we will be very happy to see your opinions and questions as we go on. So we already have our screen ready, and here we go. Okay, so what is going to be today's agenda? We're going to be talking about why and how does storytelling improve language skills. In between this, we're going to be looking at stories for motivation. We're going to be talking about what are some of the graded readers that we can use and what is comprehensible input. We're going to be also talking about opportunities for social interaction, which is very important to note, regarding also reading and developing the 4 language skills, because reading can come as a catalyzer for the language skills. Also, reading that is going to develop future skills. We are going to be training our students to go on with the future jobs for tomorrow. And finally, we're going to be talking about how we can use the stories in and out of our classroom. Of course, before we begin, we must remind you that the contents of this presentation are protected by copyright from Pearson and third parties. And of course, the reproduction of this material is going to be forbidden unless we have written consent from Pearson Educación for Mexico or any other companies around Latin America. So, with all said, okay, now we should begin with the first topic. Carmen, would you like to mention it to our audience?
Of course. Thank you very much, Luis. Well, why and how does storytelling improve language skills? That is a big question, and that is going to be the most provoking question we're going to have right now. So, well, storytelling is magical, right? It's incredible, it's amazing, and it definitely shapes our childhood and keeps us aligned to this magical path as we grow up. So, here we are going to explore 5 ways in which storytelling improves language skills. Okay, so Luis, do you like reading?
Of course, I love reading. Of course, we are all teachers. We have to love reading. And as we can see here, reading for pleasure can result in increased empathy, improve relationships with others, and reduces the symptoms of depression and dementia. Of course, improves the well-being. This is a very interesting article published in the Reading Agency. What do you think about this, Carmen?
Oh, I think it's amazing because imagine like we are not just having a good time. We are not just like reading for pleasure. We are improving as a self person, right? You're improving as a person because you can have better relationships. And as we said, our depression symptoms after all this COVID bad. So our well-being is going to improve.
Absolutely. And there are more studies and more quotes that we're going to mention right now. For example, could you mention about this one, about combating stress?
Yes, of course. I mean, besides the entertainment, I mean, now reading, we can know that reading can help you with your health. Imagine after 6 minutes of reading, your heart rate is better. And in general, your health conditions improve. And this happens because your stress goes down. And when that happens, your blood pressure decreases. Okay. And then your heart rate is slow. Okay. So this is like a very good activity to relax your mind and your body.
Absolutely, Carmen, and I couldn't agree with this. And for many of us who have sat down, just relaxed with a little story or a book in our hands, we can actually see the effects that provokes in our health. So this is a very, very interesting article, also found in the World Literacy Foundation, that helps you reduce stress. But that does not it, Carmen. We also want to tell our audience about what happened with reading loss. And this is something we can also mention with the figures of the UNESCO, and they show that 2/3 of an academic loss and of a year have been lost through the pandemic. So in school closures, we can see also there has been a bit of a setback, a bit of a return, a backdrag of learning, and reading can also be helping us with this. And not just that, also because of COVID-19. And learning loss disparities have grown the students' need for help. And this help can come through reading. What can you tell us, Carmen, about it?
Yes, of course. I mean, reading is going to help also with the balance, right? We need to balance our students' learning now. And if you show us the next slide, we can see that, of course, a good reader is someone who has good vocabulary. This person has can come up with more complex grammar structures. This person has very good writing skills and spelling skills. And this was said by Stephen Krashen in The Power of Reading. So absolutely, reading can help with learning loss.
Yes, and we can also see that there has to be a very important catalyzer. So we are reading as adults. We read because we want to find out about a topic or we are interested in a type of novel. But in our case, for our students, they need to fill in a gap, and this gap comes along with the necessity of improving this linguistic competence, and also creating bondages for more skills. But one of them we want to talk in particular is actually the global scale of English, because reading can help you fill in the gap from learning loss. And here we can actually see with the global scale of English, which was a scale that it was developed with Pearson and the same creators of the Common European Framework, that we can actually establish the point between what is going to be necessary for our students to go from one level to the next one. So we can actually pinpoint this precise can-do descriptors. What else can you tell us about the GSE, Carmen?
Well, the GSC is a great tool when we want to see the objectives, the specific objectives that we want to achieve with our students. What I really like about the global scale of English is that it has a more granular way to do it. Like you don't jump from one stage to the other and you need to wait 1, 2, 3 years in order to know the new objectives that you are going to be achieving. With the global scale of English, we can see these progress like even in daily basis. Okay, you can decide like what is going to be the objective, the reading objective in this case, that my students are going to get at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month. Okay, so having these clear objectives is going to help us know how we can help our students and what is going to be the direction that we want to take them to.
Absolutely. And we have a lot of information regarding the global scale of English. You can follow the website, pearsonenglish.com/GSE, and you can find more information about how you can actually improve your students' objectives or their learning objectives into the program that you might be using at the moment. But we are also ruling for reading. And reading is going to be the catalyzer in this case, because we can get a lot of interesting topics, a lot of genres. But on top of that, we also can talk about the new words, the vocabulary, and coping with stress. And we can see this little image. Could you tell us a little bit, Carmen, how could you describe this image? What are students doing here?
Well, I mean, reading is a new world, right? It's like, I remember the movie Narnia, right? That you could go to a different world and live different experiences. So I was reading a comment that someone just wrote, and this person said, reading is everywhere. It's not only for school. So I think that is the magical part of reading. So we can escape, we can meet new characters, we can go to different places. So imagine on top of this, as you already said, like we are gonna improve our health, we're gonna have a good time, we're gonna learn a lot, and our educational level is gonna improve. So reading seems to be the key, a very important key for education.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. And let's also think about what kind of materials are we using for our students, what kind of things they are taking to read. Now, sometimes we have small text in our material, and whenever you were using a textbook, but what if we found stories that are motivating, they are fun for them, they relate, something that they would love to see? So this is the first aspect that we're going to be looking into reading. Stories that are enjoyable and motivating. Because in every culture, in every period or history, whether oral or written records there has been stories told. And with Disney, we want to tap into some of these greatest stories. And this is something we wanted to show you because we can find stories that our students like: fairy tales, fantasy, folk tales, quests, mysteries, science fiction, classic tales, original stories, you name it. So we want to make a little game with you, Carmen, don't we? We want to do something fun.
Yes, we want to have fun this afternoon.
Absolutely. So, it's Friday, the body knows it, so we want to do something fun tonight. So we're going to have here some stories, and I would like you to match them. And this is something you can do. You can write it down on the comments. You can do it on your own. But we're going to have different kinds of genres. In this case, science fiction, folk tales, fairy tales, fantasy, quests, and mysteries. Carmen, and would you like to guide up our audience on what is that we are going to do?
Of course. Luis is going to show you some pictures, and you need to match those pictures to these words. Okay, so I think they are ready, Luis. Go. They are all yours.
Let's do it. All right, so here we are. Now you can see them now. These are some of the stories. And of course, we have some of our very own classics. Some of these you already know. And if you're watching this with your children, of course, they're going to be jumping and saying, Mommy, I know this one. Oh my God, The Lion King. Oh my God, Zootopia. So this is exactly what we're trying to do. We want to get that motivation from our students as well. All right. I think you're figuring out right now in which genre, which category you can fall Alice in Wonderland. I don't know if you have some answers right now, Carmen.
Not yet, but come on, try out. Zootopia science fiction, they say.
Okay, could be. But if you remember the story, there was something more into it. All right, let's see if we can have another answer for that one.
Okay, let's see. Please write your answers. Come on, don't be Zootopia fantasy.
Okay.
Oh, I guess Zootopia is their favorite one.
Yes, I can tell. But you know what? It's gonna be funny. But Zootopia is actually another. You could put it in another type of genre. All right, let's see if we can have another one for The Lion King or Alice in Wonderland.
Fairy tale, Alice in Wonderland.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
All right, what about The Lion King?
Lion King fantasy, Zootopia mystery.
Okay, very good. Just let me give you one hint about The Lion King. The Lion King was set up in a different continent with a very nice story in the wild. So it can be related to something that it was passed on to another generation, like an oral story. But I'm just going to leave you that little tip. We're going to jump into other stories that we have. Don't worry, keep your answers, and we're going to see whether we were right or not. All right, let's go with the next one. Okay, now we have Onward. It's just practically a brand new
story.
Movie. Yes, very nice. We have Wall-E. It's a wonderful story. And Cinderella, of course, an all-time classic. Let's see what we have to say about it. Okay, Carmen, what do we have?
Okay, we have, well, not yet. We don't have more answers yet.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Well, they said for Lion King, folk tale.
All right, that's
Wall-E science fiction, Cinderella fairy tale.
What about Onward?
Fantasy. Fantasy.
All right, very nice, guys. Very good. I am seeing that we are having a very nice interaction with everyone.
Yes, a lot.
That was fun. That was fun for you, and it was fun for us when we were planning about it. So let's see how right were we with them. So just matching to the genre can be a very nice story, a very nice activity to do in class without even opening the book. It creates that expectation, don't you think, Carmen?
Yes, of course. Because as we said, everybody is familiar with the stories.
Exactly. Even us as adults, we love them.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so we have here our answers. And remember, I was mentioning about story going on from mouth to mouth, from generation to generation. That's a folk tale. And maybe we can relate it to The Lion King and also to Cinderella. But what is interesting is that we can have this kind of discussion. Why is not fantasy? Of course, it seems like everything seems to be like fantasy, but that's exactly the kind of discussion we want to generate, don't we? All right. So we have that is not just the only game we have here. We have another one. We have another surprise for you. So I'm going to move on, and here we are. Perhaps you remember these people. These are our beloved characters in stories. So let's see if our audience can determine which one are they. Hey, Carmen, can you help me out here?
Yes, of course. Here we have 8 characters, right? And before we jump to the game, I would like to ask you, well, we have been saying that these stories are great and they are amazing, but why do we love them that much? Why every time we see any of these characters, we really get in the mood and we start thinking and imagining and remembering and living the experience again? And yes, probably you already know the answer because because these stories are familiar, right? We know the characters, we know the stories. Okay, so this is a very important element. So now let's play. Well, I mean, they are already answering the game. They are writing the answers. Yes, write the name and the number and the name of the character. So number 2, Nemo. Number 3, Elsa.
Yes.
Number 6, Buzz Lightyear.
Good.
Number 1, Mr. Incredible. Number 4, Cruella. Number 7, Maleficent, and Moana number 8.
Very nice.
So they got all the answers.
Yes, you did get them right. And for that, I give you a like. And of course, I'm going to give you an A+ for that. You're going to be seeing those a lot today. Good. So now we have been familiarized with stories and characters. This is exactly what we're trying to do. I'm going to give you all a gold star for that, for participating in our games. That was fantastic. Now, let's think about also what role have the characters in the story. Because if you identify with a character in the story, that is going to make you really want to see what happens to him, or what kind of a role is going to have the villain, or what kind of an adventure you're going to see with the character in the story. So here we are. Carmen, would you like to explain this a little bit more?
Of course, yes, of course. Well, the factors that make familiar stories and characters enjoyable and motivating to our young learners and ourselves is because they draw on prior knowledge. Using them in the classroom, imagine some of the preparation for reading or telling the story has already been done. Okay, to use a more technical term, schemata is already activated, which makes it easier for teachers. Okay, they already know the story, they are already familiar with the characters, so the prior knowledge is already it has been already activated. Now this can increase a younger learner's confidence to read and listen to a story in English, right? Because they are already familiar with them. So somehow they are so excited and they want to read and start looking at the images and everything that they haven't even realized it is in English, and they will open the book and they will start reading. So it's less frightening than opening something that probably they are not familiar with that. Okay, now if students are doing independent reading or they are gonna take a book home, this is very good because this is gonna be a motivation for them. If they have like different options, they're gonna select the one that they like, the one that they are familiar with. And this is the last one is one that I really, really like. Favorite stories can be read many times over. Certainly for our young readers, stories seem to grow with each reading. Children have their favorite stories and request the same ones again and again. This is ideal for learners of English, where repetition of language is central to learning. And I'm gonna tell you a story. When my oldest son was little, he was like 2-3 years old. He every afternoon he would watch Monsters Inc. We watched that movie for 6 months, and every time he watched the movie, he was extremely amazed and like if it were the first time he was watching that movie. So I think this is I mean, even for us, we can see the movie again and again and read the story again and again, and every time we read it, we enjoy it as the first time. Does it happen to you?
Oh yes, as for me, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you every time I watched Pinocchio ever since I was a little boy.
Okay.
That is one of the That's one of the input that we can exploit from the stories is the affinity that we have with the character. But that's not it. We can also talk about the dramatic plot lines. And here with dramatic plot lines, we want to really keep the students engaged. Now we are familiar with the characters. We really want to see what's the story about. And now we're going to see the information about what is going to be the story arc, what is going to happen, how is it going to develop. Ever since we are children, we want to see what happens next. Then we're going to see a key scene, something that it was perhaps on the poster, was on an illustration. That is what we need to take into account. We as teachers, what is going to be this specific part that we really want to engage our students, but not just that. That is going to help us to make a little bit of discussion to develop critical thinking skills. We're going to be talking about them a little bit later, and also what's going to be the subplot. And of course, as the story grows and our children also grow, they're going to be able to determine what is happening on the other level. What's the subplot of the story? And of course, the theme, the topic, and these ideas can help us to bring out a whole different world that we can discuss. Future skills, we can discuss language, we can discuss We can make conversations, debates, drawings, many other things that are going to be inspired by reading, and of course the dramatic plot lines. Here we have a very nice example, and here we have the story of Rapunzel. We remember this one, and you can actually see how students can predict what's going to happen. All right. So in this case, what's going to happen next? Well, we have three options. Either Rapunzel is going to throw Mother Gothel out of the window tower, or Mother Gothel ties up Rapunzel in the room, or Rapunzel uses the hair to tie up Mother Gothel and escape. So if you had seen the story, we know the answer. Which one is it going to be? I think it's going to be number B, that the Mother Gothel ties up Rapunzel, and this is exactly what we're talking about. We want to get our students engaged, and we want them to predict what is going to happen. If they haven't read the story, or if they already know what's going to happen, of course they're going to be engaged and see and respond and participate in class. That is exactly what we want them to do. Now, as for dramatic plot lines, that is one of the aspects. We have another one that we have coming up, and Carmen is going to tell us a little bit about it. And these have to do with the characters we just already did in the game. Carmen.
Yes, of course. In addition to familiar stories and exciting plot lines, we also meet complex characters within the pages of stories, right? So characters, they are magical, they are multidimensional, they have both positive and negative traits. Sometimes brave, funny, kind, other times jealous, greedy, or mean. It's easy for us to relate to these characters. The main characters often embark on a journey of self-discovery, right? They learn through their experiences, and we also learn along with them. They provide a wealth of materials for teachers to use before and after the book has been read. For example, you could focus on a character's profile, or probably you can work on a map, a character's development, feelings, motivation through the story from the beginning to the middle to the end. You can talk about the similarities and differences between two characters. And of course, we can compare positives or categorize positive and negative traits. Okay, have students express their opinions and feelings about characters. Well, let me show you what I mean. Can we continue?
Of course. Here we have a very nice chart.
Exactly.
The characters in the story. But Carmen is going to tell us
yes,
about.
Exactly. So this is really nice. Remember, right now we're concentrated on complex characters. So every book begins with a list of the main characters. This is not only a useful reference, but it is a great preparation for reading the story. We can do some predicting about the characters. We can use the audio to practice the pronunciation of names, among other things, right? Let me show you another example. Okay, so we can get our students think about the characters before they read the story, and you can come up with questions like this one. Look at the picture and answer the questions. Who is in the picture? Where do you think they are? What do you think they are doing? How do you think they are feeling? Okay, I'll give you another example. Yes, by looking at the characters, right? You can talk about, these are just some examples, but we can come up with a long list of questions. Okay, we can get our students thinking about, for example, this is a higher level, right? So the questions, they are deeper. For example, reading this book and answer the questions. Who do you think is the hero? Who do you think is the villain? Who do you think will fall in love, right? That is my favorite question. Who do you think will change their ideas during the story? Okay, so complex characters, they are great for us, for teachers, because with our creativity, we can come up with a lot of ideas in order to analyze and go deeper their personalities and the complexity of these characters. As we said, they are not completely good or completely bad, and somehow they are humans. That's why we relate to them. Even though we are in a magical place, we really relate to them.
Absolutely, Carmen. And also, there is another ingredient that we can add to the stories. We can see them, we can read them, we can relate to them, but there are more things that come through the eyes, and that has to do with the impactful artwork. Now, the illustrations play an essential role in children's literature, and even more so for younger learners, where they must convey with different kinds of meaning, supporting the comprehension because this supports the visual learners and builds up visual literacy, grabs and keeps the reader's attention because it provides a natural and teachable moment and fuels imagination. And that's exactly what we want to take into account, because our students have been locked up in home for quite a while. They're probably rediscovering going back to school, so we really want to teach them something memorable. And of course, it's going to appeal to different tastes because it's going to lead to a greater engagement. We have the luxury of using a world-class artwork and making in with Pearson the Disney kids readers. And we're going to see a little bit more about it. And here we have a very nice artwork that is going to tell us about it. And if you had seen the movie or you imagine it, you can relate to the story of Elsa riding this lovely ice horse and going on to the adventure. And of course, here we can look at another trait supporting comprehension. There we go. Because you can actually get immersed in the story and you can feel perhaps the cold of the night and feel the strong winds and the strong waves. And that is exactly what you want to do. You can see here in the storyboard or the movie frame the elements to the narrative where the text and illustrations are working together. And of course, it's going to grab the reader's attention. There you go. So this is another example for example, with the story Brave. And in this one, I want to ask you a question. What is Merida doing? Where is she going? And you can see the 3D image coming out of the page, and you are going to see that she's going somewhere. She's going rampantly going somewhere. And if you remember the story, you can tell me what it is that all about. But what we can do next time in the urgency. And this is what we want to transmit to our students, for them to read it thinking about that. And of course, going on, reading to different tastes, appealing to different tastes. So we have we already talked about the genres. Now here we have another story that is very familiar, The Jungle Book, or that has been computer generated, that is very imaginative, for example, Toy Story, or comic book style, or stylized, or in a live action movie, for example, in Cinderella, or the photography also. So it appeals to different tastes. And the funny thing is that in this way, we can ask more questions. We can relate to different topics. For example, of the photography here with the iceberg. If we're talking about Frozen, for instance, we're going to be talking also about global change. The climate change, or the greenhouse effect. How is it affecting our polar caps, or the polar ice cap? So there are many points of discussion that we can take from here, and how are we going to motivate our students to actually participate in them comes also with the visuals. Don't you think, Carmen?
Yes, of course. I would like to know which is the favorite for the audience we have. Is it the classic, the live action, the photography? Why don't you tell us your favorite taste?
Yes, please tell us, so we can go also to another ingredient that we would like to show in our readers as well. Okay,
what about yours, Luis? Which is your favorite?
Well, I'm a technological millennial, so I'm gonna go with computer generated. Those are gonna be my favorites. WALL-E, Toy Story. They really make me feel like a little boy again, and that's a very nice feeling. To our kids, these stories make them feel immersed into them. I don't know. That's just my thought.
Yes, I think we have a combination of different styles. I love classics, computer generated, photography. I think classic is the winner.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, classic definitely is a winner.
All right, congrats. And yeah, there we go. So this is going to help us to choose wisely. But there we go. That is not the only ingredient. Now we have put another ingredient on the list. Carmen, would you like to tell us about it?
Yes, of course. We've talked about the text and the visuals. Now let's look at the role that an audio can play in reading stories. Okay, when we add an audio to a printed story, we can expect many good results, Luis. For example, playing the audio as your students read along adds context and the effects of the story, right? Listening to the music, listening to the birds. So they really get into the story. In a shared reading situation, we always link reading with listening. However, sometimes you may want your students to build their listening skills. In that case, you could play the audio of a part of the story before students see the printed words. Okay, so you can do a lot of activities as well if you have the listening. Well, in every Disney Kids reader includes an enhanced audiobook. Let's have a listen, Luis.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
We're going to try and see if we can play it directly from here. Otherwise, we have the plan B. So we're going to try now.
Okay, go ahead.
Go.
Yes, we can listen.
All right.
Why are you imagining? Come on, write it down. Write it down.
What can you think? Yes.
King Agnar of Arendelle loves telling stories to his daughters, Elsa and Anna. One night, he tells them about the North Uldra. They live in the enchanted forest, and they love spirits and nature. Years before, the Arendellians made a dam for the North Uldra because they were friends.
Good. All right. Whenever you
Yes.
hear a little ding, that's going to tell you, okay, that's the end of this part. That we have actually selected a small paragraph or a part of the story, so we can make some discussion. We can help our students do some silent reading in the middle. But also, as you can see, there was a little bit of music, a little bit of an introduction that actually takes you away, and that is going to help you with mindfulness with your students. You want to take them away from whatever is that they were thinking. And interestingly, they also come with sound effects. I don't know if I can. I want to play this part. It's a little bit longer, but I'm gonna go directly to the part I really
Inside
want to
the
go.
boat, they find
Here we are.
the dark sea. She makes ice on the
And
water.
this is when Elsa was. There we go. She was making ice.
But it's no good. She goes underwater. Suddenly, there's a water horse. It's the water spirit. It's angry, and they fight.
Wow. Yeah, you can actually tell. You can actually feel what's going on. What do you think, Carmen?
Yes, I mean, I'm reading the comments and our audience is involved in them with the audio. Okay, they listen to the snow, the forest, a fireplace. So imagine. Yes, that's pretty interesting.
Yes, well, that was wonderful. And that closes the chapter on what is that we have for how the stories are going to be more enjoyable. We're going to go into the second section and thinking about graded readers. Are they going to provide a comprehensible input? What is that? Carmen, would you tell us?
Yes, of course. What do we mean by comprehensible input? Comprehensible input is the language in English that learners can understand, right? So why is this important? Here we have a quote that says the best methods of acquiring language are those that supply comprehensible input in low anxiety situations, containing messages that students really want to hear. So as we mentioned at the beginning, I think that they are not only having less anxiety. I think that this goes beyond that. They are enjoying, right? Like the mood is all immersed into this magical experience. Okay, so graded readers are a perfect example, right? Because engaging students that are told using control language that students can understand. Okay, so it's not only reading what you like, but reading something that it goes with the level of the language you have.
Mhm. Then that leads us to the next question. How do we grade readers for our young learners?
Okay, great. Readers are divided into levels with increasing story length and words per page. This provides plenty of scope for gentle progress through a series. For example, level 1 has simple one-clause sentences that are supported by single illustrations. As we can see, the pages they are gonna have between 5 to 10 words. Okay, level 2, which is on my right, well, this is gonna be this is gonna have 1 and 2 clause sentences. They are gonna be supported by more complex narrative visuals. Basic direct speech is introduced, and here we're gonna have between 10 to 20 words per page. If we move to the next level, that is level 3, we are gonna see direct speech. That direct speech becomes more complex, right? A wider range of visual cues are used, such as close-ups and cutaways. And here we're gonna have between 20 to 40 words per page. If we go to level 4, which is on my right, from this level, all the stories are told in the past tense. Direct speech includes longer exchanges of dialogue. So we're gonna have between 40 to 60 words per page. And 40 to 60, so sorry. Okay, so level 5, from this level, the story is broken into chapters and paragraphs are introduced. The books are a mix of animation titles and live action titles for an older appeal, right? And now we're gonna have a number of between 60 to 80 words per page. And finally, level 6 is gonna have a wide range of verb tenses to tell the story, including the past progressive, present perfect, extended visual. Storyboards convey more of the action. And now here we have between 80 to 100 words per page. So as we said, it's not only like finding the story, but finding the appropriate level for your students. And this is the magic of readers, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that leads us to how we can actually determine how much control vocabularies are going to be. Carmen, could you tell us?
Yes, of course. Now let's talk about vocabulary, right? Graded readers are written using a core word list, okay? And that is going to be referred to as head words. Now, the list of head words consists of common high-frequency words that align to the global scale of English. Remember, we were talking about the global scale of English, and to vocabulary used in the English courseware at corresponding levels. Now, in addition to the list of head words, some lower frequency topic specific words are needed to tell the story, to make it interesting, and to progress learning. If we never challenge learners beyond their development level, they will never make progress. Remember this theory of input plus 1, right? That we always need to demand our students one step ahead in order to guarantee the progress. Okay, and well, combine the head words and the extra words become the key story words. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that brings us here to additional components that we have for the control vocabulary, because we have picture dictionaries, we have glossaries, and of course, these glossaries can be used in a number of ways. So to pre-teach the words, to teach the keywords that our students are reading or just listening to the story, to consolidate learning after students have read the story, and also, of course, to check spelling. So we have also a couple of charts, and we would love to go over, but they are going to be a lot more time to explain. But here we can see some grammatical structures that we're going to see. We're in between the levels that we have, and here's a full title. But that's not it, Carmen. We also have the global scale of English measurements and the Lexile measures that we're going to find. Can you tell
Yes.
us about it?
Yes, of course. Well, I think that we already mentioned the global scale of English, right? How helpful this is going to be in order to know the objectives of our students. And well, now let me talk about the Lexile measure. And this is going to be another way to measure these stories. The stories themselves have been accorded a Lexile measure, the global benchmark for text complexity. Okay, so these are the two ways we are gonna measure our readings.
Yep. Then we will be very happy to share this information through our peers and reps. But we're gonna move on, and we also want to talk to you about how these stories are going to provide opportunities for social interaction. We're going to take a look of this because these stories in class are going to bring everyone together in a shared activity that provides many options for genuine interaction, which in turn progresses the language learning. Let's take a look. Here, for example, we can have whole class discussions when the teacher asks questions about the story before, while, or after the reading. And the students, of course, have to answer them or making questions on their own. And as our students are actively engaged, language production is more spontaneous and interest is going to grow. And of course, that is the whole purpose that we have with this. Let's take a look at one of the examples, for example, with this story, Monsters, Inc., for example. And here, you do this activity while you even open the book. You show them the cover and you ask them, can you see, if they can identify the green monster. Where are they? What color is he? What are they wearing, if they're wearing anything? And what is Sully doing now? They know their names. What about Mike? Mike, the little one, is he happy? How do you think would we know they are happy, or how do you think they are scared, or what kind of a story is that? So these are going to be the stories, and we're going to notice how we can move on from closed to open questions, to open-ended questions, or questions that require evidence. These are going to be essential for critical thinking questions as well. In this way, you can bring everyone into the discussion despite the range of English abilities that they have. So it's not that you really need to know English to be able to understand it. You can understand it from different other perspectives, from simple observation, closed questions, and this helps you develop more critical thinking. Here, also, we have pair activities. As we can see here, we can get in pairs, and these activities are going to also help learners get engaged in completing a task together. And this has to do, of course, with future skills. We will see in a moment. But we want to set also the expectation of the student that they have to say it in English, and they have to learn how to use the meta language and post it on the wall, for example. They want to put on what do they see, what spots, how many spots with the colors, they're smiling or not, how the puppies are getting dirty, and so on. So this is going to boost communication and also, of course, collaboration between students. And of course, this leads into group work, because the idea of small groups can talk about, they can talk about different themes and different topics or ideas about the story to discuss and complete also another task together. This is a fantastic opportunity to discuss behavior, to discuss what do the students think, and also to think about what are going to be the key elements of the story, or also to think about what are going to be the relevant ideas for the next chapter. And also it varies on the age group. So we want to take these opportunities for group work for deeper analysis of what the story is all about. There are going to be lots of ideas and resources to help the teachers, and this is very interesting because sometimes we have the story in our hands. Okay, we have to think about what kind of questions am I going to do, but the best thing is that in this Disney Readers, we do have videos with the lead into more interesting activities with your students and to very nice ideas, and they can be downloaded via the teacher resource platform that we will incorporate when we are using this program. Then we're going to move on into the next topic, which is how we're going to develop the 4 language skills. So Carmen, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, of course. I mean, I'm very glad to read your comments, because basically teachers, they have already mentioned this, right? That it doesn't matter we are talking about reading, we can combine and we can come up with the production and the practice of the 4 skills, right? So how does it happen? Stories embedded words and phrases in a whole range of grammatical sentences, and they show learners how the language is used for communication and what it sounds like. Okay, let's continue. And here we can have another example, right? Target, we're gonna have the 4 skills, for example, who says this, and then we can have a discussion, discuss the questions with a friend, and
so we're implying that we're using speaking and reading here, right?
Exactly. We are combining. You can combine more than one skill. And if you continue, Luis, we can see how it is really important to consider the 4 skills when planning, right? When we plan our lessons, we can see how all these different skills are already part of the lesson plan, right? Which automatically is going to help students develop language as a whole thing, not only as a reading practice.
Absolutely. And also, we also want to take the chance for reading, for the skill of reading, also to develop more future skills. And this is going to be a very important topic because we want to discuss how we can develop future skills embedded with the reading, and which these are going to be also the foundation for language skills. So there are going to be a series of soft skills that we need to thrive on the 21st century. These are aspects that can relate to our young learners. For example, we already mentioned critical thinking, communication. With critical thinking, we need to also use the Bloom's taxonomy, the Bloom's taxonomy traits to analyze, to evaluate, make decisions, solving problems, creating something from original. So we can also determine by reading and by discussing. Once our students are engaged, this is going to be another aspect that we can develop naturally. Communication, written and spoken. We already mentioned how the 4 skills are going to be also developed throughout the program of reading. We can create questions. We can have discussions. We can develop, for example, presentation skills, active listening, persuading others. So these are some of the skills. Also, we have collaboration and teamwork. We need to develop also empathy, flexibility, trust. So these are so as we can see, these future skills are going to be needed for our 21st century learners. Let's think about our students as the workers for tomorrow. Our students are going to land the jobs that now we cannot think about. Let me ask you something. About 30 or 20 years ago, when we were kids, we never thought there was going to be somebody called a community manager or a social media community manager, because back then we were not thinking about these future jobs that will be presented nowadays. And these are going to be the future skills that our students need to develop, because the jobs that they're going to be applying into are not there yet, are not created. We don't know. And these also have to do, of course, with social responsibility, because they need to value the global citizenship. And thinking about global citizenship, we need to think about as well of how we are going to live in a city, or the urbanization concept, or the green conscience. These have to do traits about social responsibility, and we're going to see them in many of the stories as well. For example, oops, I don't know what I did. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Sometimes it happens. So we were mentioning about critical thinking, because the questions and activities that can be built from the stories, from any kind of story, are going to be directed through the right cognitive stage the students are in. And of course, they need to be able to express these activities into more abstract thoughts in simple English. Now, for example, we have here questions thinking about what is going to happen, or what do you think the decision that they took was a good decision, or why are they in the store? Was there another way to do this? And think about this as if you are the character. And these kind of questions are getting into the students' minds, and they are questioning what they have seen several times. In the case that they love stories, for example, they are going to think, okay, I have read this story so many times, but they're asking me tricky questions. They're asking me questions that are making me think. And I need to come up with an answer of something that I am familiar with, but I need to analyze. That is what critical thinking is all about, that the students think outside of the box. And that is not it. Values are going to be things that are also embedded in stories, because the stories encourage learners to think about themselves, the place in a word or in a world, and how they say or do, and how they should impact others. So fictional words or fictional characters identify key values in engaging a way and providing insights to the cause and effect of actions. These examples provide teachers with a springboard to discuss with learners how the values are going to be relevant in their lives. And let me give you a very brief example of what I'm talking about. So, for example, we remember this lovely story about Dumbo. And what is going to be the value, for example? Believing in yourself. That's what we want to take. That's what we want to achieve, a conscience of something that is deeper than the story itself. At a higher level, a story content provides the framework to illustrate the importance of understanding the world beyond the experience. So here's another one. For example, Zootopia. We might think that this is a story about mystery or perhaps animals, that it's funny, but not really. We also have to think about the stories can also lead to bullying. And of course, we need to be aware of the issue. We need to be aware that it might be a situation we might be on. And of course, this is going to lead into a very interesting reading and a discussion in how to connect with the theme and the bravery, for example, the character had in order to overcome bullying. All right, I think we're about to end, and we want to go and show you how we can use the stories in and out of the classroom. So in this way, we can see here, well, in the stories that we had shown you, the teacher is going to be the one who chooses the material. And this is going to link into the main focus of study, whether is it the topic, the number of words, the function of the language, and also how the class is going to be involved. This is a way that you, as a teacher, is going to choose the story. How are they going to gather to listen to it? Are they going to read it? Are they going to listen? How much interaction are we going to have with it? And when the teacher asks the questions, or is the teacher going to think aloud, or is it going to read the text, or are they going to listen to it? And focus on listening, on speaking, because the skills for the students are the ones that they need to listen, and they need to answer and react to the story. And in shared reading, the students are encouraged to read along with the teacher sometimes. So therefore, it is very important that if the teacher is going to be the model, they should follow along with it. Or if the audio is going to be the model, they should be also, the students should be exposed to it as well. And of course, how is it going to be delivered how is it going to be suitable for digital delivery? The teacher, of course, can use the storytime principles by modifying the approach, for example, to the virtual classroom, because you want to use a technique that involves all of your students. In this case, I can recommend one technique that is called the reading chunk. So you can have your students read a small piece of the story and ask them to read it silently. Therefore, they will concentrate on what's going on. To get more comprehension, you can ask closed questions that involve more observation. For example, is the character happy or sad? Where is he? What do you think is going to happen next? These kind of questions are going to reveal that the student is actually involved in reading. And then you can move on into the delivery of the audio, for example. So they can look at it, they can listen to it, and if it has sound effects, they can live through the story. All right, we're about to reach our end. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to tell us, Carmen, about finding the time for reading?
Well, I think that finding the time for reading will just come, right? Well, in the classroom, teachers, we really need to find that time, right? But in real life, it is gonna just come in a natural way.
Yes.
Okay, so, well, I think it's time to thank our audience, right, Luis? And thank you for being with me here today.
It was a pleasure as always, Carmen. Yeah, we would like to know if there are any questions that our audience may have, so we can wrap it up by now. But we would like to thank you very much for your attention and your wonderful participation. That I saw that many of you were very much engaged into the story, and to see how storytelling, the stories that we choose, how can they motivate our students and help us with the closing this learning loss our students have had. Yeah, I don't know if we have any questions.
Well, yes, Luis, listen to this. What kind of stories will be suitable for higher or advanced levels?
Oh, that's a very good question. As you mentioned, Carmen, there are many ways that you can choose the stories depending on the number of words, for example. We saw, for instance, that we have stories that have more than for example, 400 words, or they deal with different types of grammar topics, for example, present simple forms, or past, or the use of modals. You have a very nice chart that we can share, and then you can choose the number of the level of the story your students are in, and so they can be more they can be set up in the correct place. Yeah, I think that would be one way. What do you think?
Yes, of course. How do the speakers see the position of speaking in the 4 or 5 scales?
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, in this case, we need to think on what is going to be the purpose of the story at that moment. If the character is going through, for example, a dilemma in the story, then you can ask different kinds of questions for your students to get the reaction out of them, and then I think you can also develop additional extra activities derived from this section of the story. For example, the dilemma, and you can ask them, okay, now you're going to listen to this part of the story. Now, in your own words, tell me what was the dilemma, or what can you see from the dilemma? So we're involving not just the skills, but also the senses. Okay, then we have another one. It says, is this all related to the TPRS method? Okay, Carmen, I don't know if you want to tell us about it.
I'm not sure what she's asking, but if you can clarify, Maria Raquel.
Yeah, I think the TPRS is the teaching proficiency through reading and storytelling, which it's a very nice way to teach in the classroom. So yes, absolutely, I would say it does, because it is not going to be just for learning the language per se, but it's also going to be for getting more motivation out of the students. And of course, the derivement of that is going to come when the students are fully engaged, and they're going to collaborate better, and the language is going to come. Okay. We can't hear you, Carmen, but
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I think I think they were asking us about the stories for younger
adults.
Adults. Well, yes, we do have many interesting stories for adults that comes with a very nice program of readers that we have. But remember, always the choice of what materials can we pick for our students are going to come with they're going to come with the likes of your class. You as a teacher are going to know your students better than anyone, so you could also think about what is going to be the genre and the stories that your students want to take. Of course, you have a lot of choices, but ultimately, you as a teacher know your students better.
Or you can ask your students, right, directly, what kind of stories would you like to read?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we have one last answer, so we can have Professor Peter to join us. No, I think we got him.
Hello.
Okay. Hello.
You're
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Carmen Aguilar and Luis Cerón from Pearson. Thank you. That was really good, really interesting. I'm sure all the teachers will be really interested in the series that you showed us. Thank you. Now, a big thank you to all our speakers for their participation and to all the teachers who have been connected to the TDC this afternoon. It's been a wonderful experience to be able to share all this knowledge and information with all of our fellow colleagues. Now, we will be waiting for you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Just remember to connect a few minutes before so as not to miss any of the details of the event. And we also remind you that tomorrow's event will be divided into 2 blocks. The one in the morning, block 1, with 3 presentations from 9 in the morning to 12 noon. And the block in the afternoon from 3 to 5 with the final 2 presentations. Remember also that to obtain the certificates of attendance, first of all, you must be registered, and all registered participants of the event will receive an email with a link at the end of the TDC so that you can register your information for the certificate. The certificate will be awarded to participants who attend 70% of the TDC conferences. That is to say, at least 5 conferences. If you have not yet registered, please do it now. Thank you very much. Have a nice Friday evening. We're leaving here all very motivated, so we'll see you tomorrow morning. Good night.